elevating competence over everything else instead of the DEI policies that were pursued by the Biden administration.
I think everyone understands that.
And Obama.
Yes.
Both of them.
Okay, but Biden much worse, not even a contest. What they've done is just crazy in so many other ways.
Trump supporters on Florida's West Coast celebrating after President Trump renames the body of water the Gulf of America. Douglas Kennedy is live on his trip to the Sunshine State. And what'd they tell you, Douglas?
Yeah, Bill, naming something has always had a lot of significance, but renaming something may have even more. So this is America, and you believe what is America should be called America.
Yes, America is first, and we need to know it's first.
In 2020, then Republican state chair for Sarasota, Florida, Terry Angley, successfully forced a local name change from Republican Party to the America First Party. She's now one of many Gulf state residents applauding another America First name change.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
One name existed for almost 2 centuries, the other for almost 4 centuries. Why change them, and why change them now?
Well, we change it now because we have the support to do it. We have a president in the White House, President Trump, who is leading us, who is supporting us to make America first.
It's a move that's been met with skepticism from the president of Mexico and derision from late-night comics.
Yeah, we have been so concerned about all the scary things that Trump's going to do. We forgot he's also going to do some really stupid things.
But this man sees history repeating itself, with nation after nation trying to declare Gulf dominance. So the Spanish controlled this sand, the French were here, the English were here, and then the Americans controlled it.
That's right. Whoever controlled the Gulf got free access to the major trade route in the heart of North America, which was the Mississippi River.
Jack Davis wrote a Gulf history. He says control of Gulf sand and water has also been at the heart of some of our country's most pivotal events, including Thomas Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase in 1803 and Colonel Andrew Jackson's victories during the War of 1812. And maybe not so ironically, nationalism has often been at play in Gulf politics.
That's exactly right, but unfortunately, nationalism has had some significant ecological costs. We've turned the Gulf into a giant oil field. We've overdeveloped this coast.
Angley says history is history, and what matters now is sending a message to the future.
It's showing our children and our grandchildren who we are, who we were, who we've always been, and who we're going to continue to be. America first, and we need to be first.
President Trump intends to make the Pentagon hyper-focused on America's ability to fight on the battlefield, with the new defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, in charge, of course. Senator Tom Cotton, an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, has grilled military leaders about the detrimental nature of going woke in terms of the readiness of the United States military. We'll speak with him in just a moment. But first, senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy. Hi, Peter.
Martha, good afternoon. President Trump does not think that transgender people are mentally or physically stable enough to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces. And this executive order, first reported by the New York Post today, that is going to be signed any minute, makes the case that transition surgeries require recovery and narcotics that could affect somebody's readiness for up to a year.
There are more executive orders coming that we fully support on removing DEI inside the Pentagon, reinstating troops who were pushed out because of COVID mandates, Iron Dome for America. This is happening quickly. And as the Secretary of Defense, it's an honor to salute smartly.
The very first thing Secretary Hegseth posted to social media after photos of his actual swearing in was this photo, and it had the caption, DOD does not equal DEI. No exceptions, name changes, or delays. Those who do not comply will no longer work here. And that's an attempt to stop managers at federal agencies from reassigning DEI specialists to other offices within the government. And it's all stuff Donald Trump said he would do.
He's sort of made these promises. He's keeping those promises, and the American people, I think, broadly support this. And so I think the Democrats would be wise to be a little bit more cooperative.
The new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth mentioned there's something about the American Iron Dome. We expect that to be part of one of President Trump's executive orders today or tomorrow. It comes as adversaries experiment with hypersonic technology and as President Trump is promising to let us all know what was going on with those drones over New Jersey.
President Trump's budget office has rescinded an order freezing spending on federal grants. It's been in the headlines for 24/7. Let's go to Jackie Heinrich because she's got some clarification now for us at the White House. Hey, Jackie.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Shannon. So some background on this. Yesterday, when we all heard about this memo that ordered OMB to freeze these federal funds, there was a lot of confusion over what applied. And the question a lot of us had was, why didn't they just do the review of what was, in fact, at odds with the president's executive orders on things like ending DEI and unleashing American energy before they imposed a freeze that led to some confusion across agencies? After the judge issued an injunction which basically barred OMB from talking to agency heads about what, in fact, was impacted, the administration decided to rescind that memo, which now allows that communication to continue. So it doesn't mean that the freeze on funds that are impacted by these executive orders is undone. The freeze, in fact, will continue on things, on funds that are impacted by EOs, on ending DEI, unleashing American energy, re-evaluating U.S. interests in some non-governmental organizations and foreign aid. That will all continue, but the freeze is not happening in the interim while that review is happening. So we got a statement from Caroline Levitt. I want to read it for you. It says, in light of the injunction, OMB has rescinded the memo to end any confusion on federal policy created by the court ruling and dishonest media coverage. The executive orders issued by the president on funding reviews remain in full force and effect and will be rigorously implemented by all agencies and departments. This action should effectively end the court case and allow the government to focus on enforcing the president's orders on controlling federal spending. In the coming weeks and months, more executive action will continue to end the egregious waste on federal funding. So, dialing back to what we talked about yesterday, Caroline Levitt said in the briefing that this was targeted at things like the $50 million that went to, she said, condoms in Gaza. Initiatives like that are still subject to this freeze. Anything that's impacted by those executive orders, there were, I think, 7 listed in the memo, but in the interim, the OMB has pulled back that memo itself because that barred communication between OMB and agency heads on what, in fact, was impacted. So that's the latest, guys.
President Trump is announcing the next step in his fast-moving immigration crackdown. The president says he's ordering the Pentagon to prepare Guantanamo Bay to hold dangerous illegal migrants.
We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back. So we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. That's a tough place to get out of.
30,000 beds, George P. To me, that sounds like a perfect fit if we're looking for housing, and there it is. But there are critics from especially the left saying that sort of the memory of, as they argue, questionable tactics that occurred there, that somehow that building is tainted. And I'm curious your thoughts as to whether that applies here as we move forward and deploy this illegal immigration crackdown.
I think it's the right call from our commander-in-chief. As a former Navy intelligence officer, can share you that this facility is outfitted for the mission. I mean, this comes down to judicial economy. When you talk about 8 million encounters of undocumented immigrants in the last 4 years, you have 1.7 million that, quote, got away that we know of. And then, according to Biden's own Department of Homeland Security, over 600,000 are criminals in some way. So, you know, my successor, Don Buckingham, the Land Commissioner of Texas, has offered President Trump acreage to assist this. There's just simply not enough federal facilities right now on the ground in states like Texas to temporarily facilitate the reverse migration that will occur. So this is very shrewd. This is a very clever move. I think Gitmo is a perfect location, and it's already been described as being a transit facility to move migrants back to these to the countries of origin, while we resurrect the executive orders that help to secure our border, which we desperately need in a state like Texas.
And Kayleigh, last time I checked, Gitmo actually gives 3 square meals a day, and people who stay there enjoy probably a lot better treatment than a lot of people do, like homeless vets here on the street and the like. So the arguments we read, especially in briefs coming out of those people, apparently it's not 5 stars. As a taxpayer, I would rather have Gitmo open with 30,000 beds than the Hotel Roosevelt being taken over on 42nd Street and all of the other high-starred hotels here in New York City.
Yeah, great point. I mean, MS-13 and Trin de Aragua, I hope they have a great time at Guantanamo Bay. You get the 3 meals, treated better than homeless veterans. Great point. And, you know, I just want to quickly focus on the shameful legacy of Guantanamo Bay from the left. Trump closed an office to reduce the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay, which we know most were hardened terrorists. Biden reopened it. He sent people from Guantanamo to other countries. He has a shameful plea deal on his watch with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the architect of 9/11. Lloyd Austin found out about it and said it happened under the radar, I'm paraphrasing him, and tried to reverse it, despite this being publicly negotiated for 2 years. So this is the shameful history of Guantanamo Bay, where we give leeway to terrorists. So let's bring it back to life and put people like the killer of Laken Riley in this place, or individuals, and there are far too many of them, that are like him.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
Well, and I'll just also note there's nothing unprecedented or unusual about sending illegal migrants to Guantanamo Bay. There's always been an operational migrant operations center in the prison, and it's a separate area than the place where the terrorists are held, obviously. Trump is just trying to make sure that it's operating at full capacity again. And actually, under the Clinton administration sent 45,000 illegal immigrants to Guantanamo Bay to be detained for the purpose of deportation. So there's nothing new about it. There's nothing cruel about it. This is simply what the federal government has to do.
Well, in that Venn diagram, Leslie, there's actually many on the terror watch list that are also illegal immigrants pouring over. So I argue keep them in that same wing.
Well, it was originally the maximum capacity when we had, alleged terrorists staying there. I say alleged because some were released and found to be drivers and things with guns against their head. 780 maximum. I do get concerned when I hear numbers like 30,000. Look, I'm a Democrat. I am all in favor of deporting criminals, illegal criminals, violent criminals. Absolutely. But when you're looking at a lot of people who also voted for this administration to cut cost, this is not a cost-cutting measure. A lot of people would and don't feel that mass deportation meant to, a facility, a Gitmo at Americans, expense. I think a lot of people felt send them back to their own country and let their country incarcerate them there so we don't have to pay for it.
We've suffered under the past administration for years and years. We've suffered with millions of criminals coming into our country. Criminals, people from jails from all over the world. They come through Mexico and they come through Canada too. A lot of them come through Canada, and a lot of fentanyl comes through Canada, and China makes the fentanyl. China makes the fentanyl, gives it to Mexico, puts it through Canada, puts it through different places, mostly Mexico, but also a lot through Canada. And so all three haven't treated us very well.